Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the country's biggest stars and some of my favourite people, and a lady who has become an icon and a legend and a guarantee star whenever you see her live. Clare Teal will be back on tour throughout the autumn and into about 2097. It's lovely to talk to you. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
It must be good to be you, because you've got sort of two lives really. Your broadcasting life, which is quite excellent, and you stick to what you know, you keep it classy, and then you deliver these beautiful shows on stage. It's a perfect career, isn't it, really? It
is. The lovely thing about it is, unless you know much about jazz, or if you don't, if you listen to the radio show, but if you don't, nobody's got a clue who I am. So I think it's a really charmed life. It's a very sweet spot, So I love doing what I do. I really enjoy doing the live shows. As I say, we do about 70 of those a year. And I can work with orchestras, big bands, other bands. We have about 3 or 4 bands that we take out. So it's always changing, and that's sort of like the career that the people that I was inspired by. That was what they did. They were always on the road and they were always learning new stuff.
How expensive is it to do the shows you do? Because it would be easy to turn up with a backing track and take all the money for yourself. It's a huge investment, isn't it, putting this scale of show on the road?
Well, it really depends. So, our biggest band, my biggest band is a 9-piece. And, you're never going to get rich taking, big bands out. That's why the big band era declined, because it was expensive. So, but it's such a thrill working with large ensembles that, it's a kind of labour of love, and you do it because it's important that people still get the chance to hear these, that wonderful sound, to feel the excitement that these big bands can generate. But at the same time, there's a lovely intimacy that comes with, sometimes I just work with a pianist or a trio, and there's different, you just get different things out of different gigs.
What are you the most? Are you a showwoman? Are you a singer? Are you a musician? What do you define yourself as? Or are you all of those things to do what you do?
I'm not a showy person. I really enjoy what I do. So if I have a bit of fun on stage, that's because I'm caught up in the moment and really enjoying it. But I do literally walk off the stage and that's kind of like I've finished work for the day. Do you know what I mean? So I don't take that home with me. Because I'd probably have to live on my own if I did that. It's unbearable. So
very annoying.
Yeah, turn it down a bit, will you, love? So no, I think that's it. If you enjoy what you do, I do very much see it as a really lovely job that I'm very lucky to have.
I'm from Nottingham, you're from the north too, and I think yes, I know, there's a couple of us left apparently. I'm doing some research. It's interesting, isn't it, how this music, big band particularly, is so sort of associated with us. I know it's also jazz and it's also Sinatra with the big band, but of course brass is such a big part of our lives because of the mines, isn't it? I think that's where our love comes from, it certainly where we live.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. I think there is definitely, you listen to a great brass band. There's certain types of big bands have kind of tapped into that lovely creamy sound of brass bands and sort of, use different instrumentation. Like sometimes they might use cornets or they might use, kind of creamier sounding instruments like euphoniums or, and I think it is, it's organic instruments, normal instruments, kind of traditional instruments that I think you see somebody holding an instrument to their lips and making this sound, creating this sound. And that's, I think in these days where everything, so many things, stuff is computerized or digitized and we stream this and we do that, but to actually stand in front of somebody and listen to them play, having, they've kind of had to study, they've had to practice, and they bring their talent to, that instrument. But you can't get away from that. It really does have a massive emotional impact, I think.
I remember that line in Jersey Boys when Frankie says to Bob, "Can I have a trumpet?" And he said, "If this goes to number 1, you can have your own horn section." And again, for a musician, there's nothing better, is there, than having a line of guys stood behind you, blowing these things that aren't plugged in. It just lifts the sound of any band, doesn't it?
It does, and Alan the dog agrees with you, and I'll just shut that door.
Wasn't that Larry Grayson?
You're not wrong. A big band, sometimes I work with orchestras, and they can be so quiet, they can be, just so quiet. But big bands are seldom very quiet, and it is such an exhilarating sound. You can physically feel the sound. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like it's pushing you around on the stage, and it is wildly exciting. And if you think, I mean, the swing era from 36 to 35, 46, that was the music of choice, you know, for young people to be listening to. It's kind of quite complex. Massive, you know, traditional instruments, big bands, you know, arrangements written by kids that are really complicated and played, you know, by young people blowing their guts out, you know, and it is, you can't, it is such an exciting sound, you know, people can't sit still.
And do you need a conductor with what you do? Because it seems to me there's sort of an organic feel about it where you're all just watching each other and playing. It's very different to an orchestra, isn't it? There's something sort of gospel about it. Almost, it's like a joyous noise by the end, isn't it?
It is, but it very much depends. It depends if things change time, if you know, or change if the mood changes. You know, so I work with people like Guy Barker. So you know, Guy's arrangements, you might suddenly come across a 5/4 bar. If you haven't got a conductor there might be a bit of trouble there, or sometimes it might change speed suddenly. So there are, and you know, just making sure that things are coming in the right place if things are a bit tricky. But on the whole, you know, a lot of them, you know, a lot of big band charts, that's the joy of it. It is pop music, so you light the touch paper and off it goes, you know, self-propelling.
Well, since the recession in our band, you see, we just get the drummer to throw away one of his sticks and he becomes a conductor, you see, 2 for 1. That's what we're thinking there. What music are we going to get in this new tour? Because, of course, so much of your stuff is uplifting, and then, of course, you'll just bring it down to these beautiful, sensational moments where it's just full of heart. What songs are you putting in this year?
Well, I kind of, you know, the older I get, I hate being pigeonholed. I just hate it. You know, I hate being sort of told what I do. So I'm always looking for something unusual to put in there to kind of, you know, disprove what people think. So, I mean, it's a celebration of pop music, really, but it might be pop music from, you know, 1895 or, you know, up to present day. So I try and draw on as many different things as possible. Having the attention span of a goldfish, you know, I need to be interested. So I draw from, you know, Great American and British songbook from, you know, 20s up to, you know, it might be like a Radiohead or a Snow Patrol or something a bit more, you know, contemporary, always, well, not always, but I've started writing again, just because I was missing it so much. I had about 7 years where I just didn't have time to do anything, but I'm just creeping back in. So I'm writing a new album at the moment, which would be a mix of kind of new stuff and, you know, and covers as well. And I'm really very excited about it. I haven't made an album for 3 years, which is unusual for me, so I'm, you know, desperate to get on with it.
You've got a following, although you're doing pop music sometimes, your audience are incredibly loyal. And I think the problem with pop is, of course, today you're today's pop star, tomorrow you're the forgotten one because they've got a new one. You've been consistent throughout your entire career. It must be sort of smart in a way to choose this type of music because your audience knows what they're going to get and trusts that you're going to deliver it year after year after year. Have you ever known a time when you weren't Clare the musician? Did you ever have to do a proper job?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I did. And I should just clarify, just, you know, I celebrate pop music, but using jazz tools, you know, jazz chords and jazz inflections. But yeah, no, I think that's part of the reason that it keeps me motivated is that, no, I did do a proper job. After I left university, I sold advertising for about 7 years. And working in call centres and stuff, it's really hard work, and it did teach me a lot of things. You know, it taught me to handle rejection, which is really useful in this business. It taught me to be able to talk about money, which again, when you're having to negotiate for yourself when you start out, and it taught me to be able to talk to anyone. Yeah. And you know, in the service industry, we're all, you know, we're all equal in every situation. But I think the thing I find fascinating about this business is how differently people treat other people depending on what they think they do. And you know, that's something that I find quite, you know, I find it quite distasteful, and it's like, you've got to be nice to everybody, or not nice to everybody, but be consistent.
And I guess the one thing about a band is it has to be a level playing field. Nobody's any better than anyone else, because you've all got to make this sound at the end. Yeah. Just talk to me about kids a minute, because when I was at school, I played the euphonium for a bit. I found it too cumbersome. I couldn't be bothered carrying the thing around. So I went to the piano. That was a smart move, because that's even bigger. Are kids still playing brass? Are there going to be brass bands and big bands in years to come, or have we got to fight for that?
We have got to fight for it. The thing that I've noticed, the worrying thing for big bands is trombones. Put it on a T-shirt. But big bands, we need 4 trombones, 5 saxophones, 2 altos, 2 tenors, and a baritone, and then we need 4 trumpets. So I've noticed that there is definitely a decline. And the really crazy thing about trombones is that, so brass band trombone, classical trombone is completely different to jazz trombone. So they even read different clefs and stuff. They play differently, so that doesn't help. I think the brass band tradition is still absolutely rocking and going very strong, but it comes down to, we need music. We need music lessons, free music lessons in schools. It needs to be an integral part of the curriculum. All arts do. Art is important, especially when in times of uncertainty, because when people are troubled and they need uplifting, you can't read a maths paper and get all giggly. You need to go out and enjoy something that's creative. It takes us away from troubles that we're experiencing, and every kid should have the opportunity. Every kid should have the right to make that choice and learn from it. And it's something that they'll benefit from, even if they never use it in later life. They'll have benefited from learning an instrument or singing in a choir, or painting a picture, or whatever it might be. There's
still definitely love for live music, and it seems to me the one thing that always will sell a ticket is a live band.
I think so, and it's interesting, if you can get kids, if you can get them to see live music early on, they are there, they get it. And the good thing about the way young people listen to music today is that, the one positive thing is that they don't care what it is, they don't care what it's called. They're not ruled by that. So they're not ruled by labels. They will just listen to stuff, and they will traverse whole massive landscapes of music because of the way that they're led to it. And that's interesting to me. They might not have the staying power to learn to love an album like I did when I was growing up, because that's the one I bought. I didn't have money to buy another one, so I better learn to love that one. They don't do that, so they're kind of cherry picking and wandering across, like I say, great landscapes of different kinds of music, but at least they're experiencing stuff and pushing their, boundaries in other ways.
I wonder if the Bublés help as well. Do these people on tour help with what you do, or is it a complete?
No, definitely. I'm not a musical snob. I think he's brilliant. I think he's got a fantastic message. He's a great live performer, and that is, the music is about entertaining people. It's about giving them joy, and I think if you're, you've got to turn a bit of that on, because you're telling these stories. You've got to want people to believe what you're talking about. And a lot of the people, going right back to the beginning, people like Louis Armstrong, the joy that they got from music started by watching bands parading in the streets. It was an interactive experience, and that's what live music should be. If the audience are playing their part, it makes our job more difficult. We're all sharing and creating an experience together.
And on people like Louis, what's New Orleans like now? Is it still alive? Is it still the heartbeat of jazz, or has that changed too?
Everything's changing. I was in New Orleans last year, and yes, it's certainly a vibrant place. And there is always going to be a very strong jazz tradition there, but there's also lots of other music. But it is a live music capital of the world, certainly. And I think that's it. Music evolves, jazz evolves. You can't expect it to always be the same, because people are influenced by loads of different stuff. So now, with nearly 100 years of jazz, we're kind of, it's like a melting pot kind of thing. So, I'm kind of mixing stuff together as everybody else is, because we've been influenced by what we've heard. And we're going to each make our own recipes up of what we like, and that then, it becomes our sound, So it's, certainly, I think, New Orleans, in fact, everywhere I've been, in other parts of the world, I think live music is it is important to people. You know, it always will be.
There is nothing more thrilling than hearing someone like you who is completely authentic and great at what you do. If I said, I'm sorry, Claire, you're going to peg it tomorrow, what's going to be your final song, one song that you just love so much, what would it be?
Oh, my life. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a hard one. So there's a song that I... well, you're asking me today, so I've got to tell you what I'm feeling at this very second.
Yeah.
But there's a song that I always kind of come back to, and I think it's just because I just love the way it's built, is Secret Love. And it was, I think it was written in the 50s. And obviously the great Doris Day, she made that famous. But as a song that's put together, it's so beautiful. And it feels really good to sing because it's got a really good range. And it takes you to places. And the thing that I love about that song and songs like it, and there are many of them, but it's the effect that they have on audiences, you know. And you feel like it's almost like walking out with a massive box of tissues. I'm going to sing this, you'll need these. And I love that. I love that we're kind of, you know, because life's not always happy, and we need a bit of sadness to appreciate the happy times, don't we? And it's that kind of music is memories. It's memories of people, childhood, loved ones, lost ones. And I think, you know, the older you get, the more of that you know and feel, and you know, you might have lost somebody very close. And I think even when you're singing a sentimental song like that, you know, might mean nothing to a young person these days, but you know, with the connotations that how you know, much respect that song is held in, and you sing that and you share a moment and we're all nearly in tears. I think that's pretty special.
It was Brian Clough who said to me years ago, just before he died, people will never remember what you say, but only how you make them feel. And that's exactly what music does. And that's what you bring alive on the stage. Clare Teal will be touring this autumn and forever. The Clare Teal Trio begins on Thursday, the 19th of September at Winchester Jazz Festival, moving through Garden City with the trio on the 21st. Into October, you can get all the dates by going to clareteal.co.uk, the new album coming soon. And it's a joy to talk to you. Never change. Keep on keeping on, won't you?
You too, love. Thank you.